Good morning. Case study number 5, public set-asides. Mason Graham, Group 11, BCT 217. So our agenda, what is a set-aside? Defining DBE and similar enterprises, effects of being abolished, Pennsylvania's current laws, argumentative discussion, and a conclusion. So what is a set-aside? A set-aside refers to the requirement that was put forth by the Public Works Employment Act of 1977, which states 10% of work within a contract needed to be open or set aside to a disadvantaged business, small business. And this was used as to help to diversify the construction industry and provide opportunities for these smaller businesses. Defining these enterprises. So MBE, VBE, DBE, WBE, SBE, all on the side right there. And exactly what you would think it would be, right? So the basis of these enterprises are that 51% or more of the business is owned by the specific classification to which they apply to receive the state or federal government certification. So that's big, right? um, Obviously, in order to be a minority business enterprise, you should probably meet the certification requirements for being a minority. Same with a veteran, right? If you're a veteran business owner and you've served your time and you meet the certification requirements set forth by the state and the federal government and these different uh, organizations, certifying organization bodies that are recognized by the state and federal governments, then that's how you become a veteran business enterprise, right? So I found this information through the pa.gov site and then the small business guide and applications. So they do a really good breakdown showing, what you're supposed to make, or no more like 47 million per year, no more than 100 employees, kind of that kind of process, and really good information if you dig into that. So, set aside versus a free market, like what's the difference? What does that mean, right? So, in a set aside market, a certain percentage is set aside for a public or federal contract, right? This allows these business opportunities to win work that they would not usually be able to attain, right? And that's really good opportunity for these smaller businesses that if it's a public or federal contract, at a minimum 10%, but some places up to 15% of that um, contract is going to have to go to those smaller business, or have at least those smaller business have the opportunity to bid on them, right? Now, through good faith, if the owner or the public facilitation of what they're working on turns down their bid, they've at least went through multiple steps to get there, right? In a free market, there's no percentage set aside, so the bid will go to the most advantageous bid. Like case, this causes stiff competitions and the importance of a good reputation, right? So, early bird gets the worm here. If you're a successful, on time, under budget, everything you do is great, and you make a bid, you'll be pretty hard to beat in the free market. So that's kind of like it's kind of a negative to the set aside market. Is it's saying here we have to set aside this amount for these businesses versus what versus the free market coming in and saying I can get this bid because I provide the best at this specific um, work. So Pennsylvania set aside policy. Currently, the 10% that is established by the Public Employment Works in 1977 is the standard, with most companies employing 10 to 15% of set asides for DBEs. PennDOT's doing like 13% is what their goal for, I think, for 2024 and 2025 was. So basically, what that breaks down is 110 million contract, 10 to 15 million will have to go to those business enterprises, right? Vice versa. So, and again, this could be, like a small business supplier, right? A supplier that's owned by one of these set forth um, classifications. It could be the trucking company, it could be your subcontractor. So, like, it's a uh, all encompassing classification, right? So it's not just like, oh, we only want, veteran business owners, and the only thing we want them to do is framing, and you have to do $15 million worth of framing. So that's not, it breaks down into different credits for the suppliers, the trucking companies, things like that, like an excavation company. Maybe you need to come in for the foundation. So like that's kind of how that works. So you can build up to the 15 or the 10% or the 15%, right? So it's not just like one set person or one set business enterprise. For or against, I support the use of set asides. This does enable smaller business enterprises that make up the local communities the opportunity to win some of these bids, right? Big fan of small business. And it's difficult sometimes for small business to be competitive, right, to larger corporations. And that kind of when we're looking at a free market, those larger corporations are going to be able to provide a better bid. So not always, but most of the time. So for me, having this smaller set aside for these kind of businesses, you're giving back to the communities that you're working in. I feel like that's really important, and that helps build a strong base, right? And again, if the company is really reputable and they're doing a good job, then it's going to be a good job that you've paid for. And it's also a win because now you've employed the local people that are going to be using that building anyway, especially in the case of a high school. For my pictures, Red Lake Brewery is a better known brewery, Colorado. I know it's not a construction thing, but big fan of it. And then GI Hall, construction debris removal service. Just some example of VBEs. Conclusions. Well, I can see both sides of the table for the free market versus set asides. Like I said, I think it's important to offer these possible solutions to these businesses while using good faith, right? And that's key here. That's key throughout this transaction is good faith, right? Good reputation. When they set this aside, and it's your general contractor having to look at this, or a project manager having to look at this, and you have to, allocate $10 million to these small businesses, right? You want to do it in good faith that they're going to do a good job. But if they're unable to, right, or if their bids aren't competitive and don't meet your criteria, right, good faith means that you went through and tried this a couple times and you were unable to meet your standards for your project, and you can verify that through your different recording processes and show that to the public agency of like, hey, we tried, didn't quite make it, so here you go. And that kind of gets credited out. So it's not like you have to make this work, or at least in the case of Pennsylvania, it's not you have to make this work. It's hey, good faith, let's work, understand this, and move forward. Thank you. That's everything. Greatly appreciate it. And again, Mason Graham, Group 11, BCT 217. Thank you guys.